My name is William Trevor Medina. I am here to share a little bit of my story of my life, and specifically my problem that I had with alcohol for over 22 years. I had been raised a Christian, and I had followed God up until a certain point. And once my alcoholism started taking its hold on me and a hold of my heart, and I required it, I pushed everything aside, everything else in my life aside. My family, my daughter, a relationship that has been broken ever since. I worshiped alcohol over everything else, including my relationship with God. Pretty soon my relationship with the Lord was non-existent. And I started having an intimate relationship with alcohol where I was married to it. I required it in my life. It can start innocently enough. It can start with peer pressure. It can start with a simple drink, having fun, friends. But then it can start taking its tug on your heart and your soul. Next thing you know, you're thinking black. Everything's negative. Everything that surrounds you is negative. I actually started planning my demise, step by step. And as I'm typing this out on my computer and planning it on a spreadsheet and everything I was going to do, a little voice inside my head, which I now know is my God, said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I just sat back in my chair and chuckled a little bit and realized how bad things have gotten. I had to stop. Something was going to happen. Either if I continued drinking, my relationship with my wife, my marriage was going to end. And I was told that by my wife. We had a talk about our marriage, and she had loved me so deeply that she told me that you need to get help. I want you to get help, and if you don't, then we're going to have to separate for a while. I knew that if I stopped this time, it would have to be a medical detox. And I had been drinking so heavily and so long that I knew that going into the hospital I would die. I knew something bad was going to happen, but I had to at least try for our marriage. So that's why I went into the hospital the second time. I was there for a little over 10 days. A large part of that time I was in the intensive care unit. And I went through some pretty bad withdrawals, detox. I was strapped down to a gurney for a large portion of the time. I had tubes in my body. I couldn't feed myself. I had delirium, tremors, to the point where I saw hallucinations and visions. When I went into the hospital, I was deathly sick. I could barely walk. They couldn't weigh my body because I was falling down. There were several nights that the nursing staff and the doctors had placed me on death watch. And so I was on a 4-hour block of death watch. They'd check me every few hours to make sure I was still breathing and alive. I'm a very strong believer in the power of prayer, and I did not know until I got out of the hospital that, number one, my wife had given me up. She totally just released me and gave me up to the Lord to do with me what His will was, what He wanted to do with me. And His will was to bring me to my knees and to show me how close I was. When I left the hospital, I had lost all of my faculties. I couldn't use the bathroom by myself. I couldn't eat. I couldn't dress myself. It took approximately 3.5 months of rehabilitation to learn how to walk again. A large portion of that time I was in adult diapers. My wife, who stuck through me through all this, had to feed me. She had to bathe me. She basically was my caretaker. And she nursed me back to a point where I regained my strength. I could eat. I didn't have to wear diapers after several months. And that was a very humbling experience. I really didn't realize until I left the hospital, about a week later after I left the hospital, really how blessed I was. I knew after a week after being out of the hospital, I would be drinking again when I left the hospital. I told myself, coming out in a wheelchair, I knew in my heart, I knew it, in 1 week's time, I would be drinking again. And then it hit me that, well, a week went by, maybe I'll try this for one more day. And then another day, and then another day, and then another day. Pretty soon, a month went by, and then 2 months, and then 90 days, and so forth. Well, here I am, a little over 2 years. One of my favorite scriptures is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because it's true. God is real. And I'm living proof. I'm living, walking, riding bike, breathing proof. The wonderful thing that the Lord did for me, which is truly amazing, and I still am blown away by this, is that when I left the hospital, when I mentioned earlier that I knew I would be drinking in a week, I had that urge when I left the hospital. I had that strong urge to drink. I knew I'd be drinking in a week. Well, when I was able to walk again, when I was able to go to the store and shop and walk down an aisle, I happened to turn a corner, and what aisle did that happen to be? It happened to be the alcohol, the liquor aisle. And I stared down that aisle and looked down that aisle like it was the aisle of death. But I had peace. And I walked down that aisle and looked at every single bottle intently. And I had no urge, none. It was the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful feeling I think I've ever had in my life. I had no urge in my heart, in my gut, in my body, in my mind, in my soul. The Lord took it away. I didn't even ask for that, but He did that for me. It was a gift that to this day, I still don't have the urge. My life is beyond beautiful today. I ride bikes consistently. I have a great job. My marriage is blessed. I have a beautiful stepdaughter who is just a beautiful friend. I'm so proud of everything she does. And I get to be a part of all that. I get to be a part of watching her grow. I get to be a part of watching my wife grow. I just have a blessed family, a beautiful home, an excellent job with friends. All these things that I see daily. Those are the reasons why He kept me around. And He has a plan for me. He has a plan for me. But He also brought me to my knees. He brought me to my knees to show me what could happen if you put these kind of things above Him